Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? I'm going to tell something you already know. Human beings are wired to move towards pleasure and away from pain, right? That's not rocket science. But what happens when all of the options are painful? What then? Do we simply choose what sucks the least? Well, things get complicated because human beings don't just chase comfort. We chase things like meaning and possibility. And oddly enough, the brain doesn't just reward when we get what we want, it actually rewards the pursuit itself. The chase is actually its own dopamine hit. That's why we will persist through discomfort if we believe there's a big enough reward on the other side. That's how we evolved. That's also why cocaine is so addictive, because it hijacks the thrill of the chase and it hijacks the feeling of euphoria we get when we get a reward, even though no reward happened at all. But this isn't about drugs, it's about life. And not all pain is actually the same. There's the pain of staying the same. You're stuck, it's predictable, and it's numbing. And there's the pain of growth where it's uncertain. It can be really risky. It can be really, really uncomfortable. It can feel humiliating. And you're really not sure if there's going to be any reward at all. One of these is familiar pain, and the other one is a gamble. The devil you know and the devil you don't know. But there's another difference that really matters. For most of human history, there really wasn't a choice. Like, for example, if you were hungry, which we often were, well, you had to do something. Just like a predator, either you had to go on the hunt and try to find food, or you starved. There was no real in-between. There was the pleasure of getting food, sure, so it was rewarding in and of itself. However, if you didn't act, well, you starved. That was very, very bad. So you eventually had to endure the pain and discomfort of hunting because it took a long time. Very often it failed. It was an incredible expenditure of energy and time and failure. But you had to do it because otherwise, well, you starved to death. But now we can kind of live in this weird in-between. After all, you won't die if you don't pursue something better, but you might kind of shrivel up a little bit. You can live in this state of permanent dissatisfaction and predictable misery. But the world's going to keep on turning. You'll be okay. You just won't be completely satisfied. You can stay in a job you hate, or a role that kind of dulls you, or a life that just doesn't feel satisfying. But it's safe, and your brain will keep on telling you, well, don't risk it, because you could lose this. That makes sense, because we like predictability. We evolved to be able to predict situations. That kept our ancestors alive when they could figure things out. But it can also backfire on us and keep us kind of stuck, or lead to conspiracy theories, which are crazy. And you know what else is crazy? When the pain of stagnation starts to feel like comfort. It's that life of quiet desperation that I think it's Emerson talked about. Not panicky desperate, just quietly desperate. And we're stuck in that trap. And I can give you a really awful and dire example. When I was in active addiction for years, life was miserable and horrible. Sure, sometimes I felt the euphoria of the drugs, but for the most part, every single day was a nightmare. But as bad as it was predictable. And what I was frightened and terrified of was withdrawal, and because I'd felt that before, and it's horrible. And then I was terrified of the life after that and all the emotional wreckage I was going to have to feel once the drugs wore off, and I was going to have to start living life without them. And the terror of all that kept me using, where at least I could use the drugs to numb the feelings that I was having, because it wasn't just about feeling good, it was about not feeling bad and not feeling anything. Eventually, the cost became too high. The pain of continuing to use and living that existence became greater in my mind than the pain of doing something about it and going through the withdrawal and going through all of the discomfort to change and have a better life. Thank goodness I did all that. I'm not there anymore. It's been 13 years, but it was a monumental part of my life, or an example in my life of where you can have these warring pains. Which one do I choose? Is there really going to be a reward on the other side? I wasn't sure. It was not guaranteed. And wouldn't you know it, life likes to repeat itself. It likes patterns. And so I'm not in that position I was in before, but I'm facing the same kind of dynamic, just in a different situation. And I'm not unique, so I'm pretty sure that you might be facing something like this as well. The circumstances may vary, but it's the same dynamic. I hate my job. I hate working for other people. It's not that the job is awful, but it drains me. It takes my time. It takes my energy. It doesn't give me anything back except for a paycheck that's too small. But it's safe. It's familiar pain. It may suck, but the pain is kind of dull, and I'm able to pay my bills mostly. It's not really a reward, but it's a crappy life, but it's not a terrible life. It's familiar pain. It's a terrible trick of nature, but there's something addictive about that familiar pain, isn't there? You know what's going to happen. It's predictable. But Doing something about it, starting a business, building a platform, creating something real, that's the opposite, but it's scary and potentially very painful. By nature, those endeavors are full of failure and uncertainty and long stretches with lots of work but no payoff. The ratio of rejection to reward is lopsided and not in the right manner. And there's days where you just feel like you're throwing your soul into the void and what am I doing this for? Is there ever going to be a payoff, or is this a blind alley? And if you haven't figured it out, that's painful. And in a weird way, it's an awful lot like the days and weeks and months after I got clean, where day after day I didn't use drugs, I showed up to meetings, I did all the things I needed to do, but I still felt terrible. And I was wondering, is there ever going to be a payoff to this? And I just wasn't sure. There didn't seem to be any kind of guarantee. I just had to persist. But I have an advantage, and I hope you have that advantage too. And that advantage is that I care. I care deeply. I care in a way that I never did when I was using, and I care in a way that I certainly don't care while I'm clocking in hours to work for somebody else to build their vision. That caring comes with pain, sometimes a lot of it, but it also comes with possibility, which is a good thing. This dynamic is what makes this kind of chase so painful and so human. I mean, you're not guaranteed a kill. You could chase what you're after forever and never really get anything. There's no guarantee. You could put everything you have into something that just doesn't pay off. But what if it does? What if the reward is on the other side of uncertainty? And if, like me, you've been programmed to just play it safe by society, well, that's a hard mindset to come by, but it's something that I work towards. And I'm not going to lie, it's a high-stakes gamble, but it's not survival versus death. It's safety versus meaning, predictable pain versus risk that just may pay off. You can suffer either way. You can spend the rest of your life in a life that you hate, but at least it's comfortable and predictable. You're surrounded by comforts that no longer really comfort you, but it's predictable discomfort. Or you can take on the discomfort of growth and maybe, just maybe, find something that actually matters. That's the choice, and it is a choice. And I hope that you find something that you actually enjoy doing as you're doing it. It's not just the dopamine hit you get for being involved in the chase, but you actually like the activity itself. Because I tell you what, I would not pursue anything business-wise or whatever if I didn't actually like it. That would be another living hell, and I don't want that anymore. Even if we enjoy the hunt and we like what we're doing, we can't escape suffering. That is, unfortunately, the human condition. You know, life is suffering. But we can choose the form of it, and that makes all the difference. Choose your pain and choose it on purpose. And I encourage you to choose the honest pain. Let it be something that might change your life. Let it be a pain that has the potential to become meaning. And maybe, just maybe, the chase itself becomes a reward. And who wouldn't love that? I mean, come on. Thanks a lot for watching. If this resonated with you or if you have thoughts about this, I would love to see them in the comments. Like the video if you liked it, or subscribe if you want to see more content like this, but do those things authentically. And I will see you later. Even if we enjoy the high... Yeah. Maybe read... let's try this again. The word...